Greetings, peace be with you. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you 5 things that I wish I knew at the age of 21. And number 5 on this list is perhaps the deepest secret of the universe. This is what Nikola Tesla said is the deepest secret. So make sure to stick to the very end of this video so that you can learn, implement, and apply what I'm going to be sharing with you in this video. Okay, now the first thing that I wish I knew at the age of 21 years old is that my opinion of me is more important than the external opinions of me, right? I used to be concerned a lot about what he thought of me, about what they thought of me. Oh, if I do this, what are my parents going to think of me? Oh, if I do that, what is that stranger across the street going to do to me? Or if I shoot this video out in public, what are these strangers going to judge me for, right? And valuing this opinion above others, that was driving my decisions. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to shoot this video because I want to be respectful of these people around me that would judge me, that would get disturbed or something like that, right? Like there's so many things that happened in my life and I was stuck in that paradigm, and there still is, right? Like I still, when I go out in public, it's like, should I shoot this video? Should I not? Should I shoot it? Should I not? And then I just do it sometimes. And then it's obviously a breakthrough and a liberation that I experience after that, right? But at the end of the day, the only thing that really matters is how you feel about yourself when you are by yourself, right? In the ancient Stoic philosophy, this is known as eudaimonia, right? The highest human good, the highest human virtue is eudaimonia, right? Eudaimonia is a combination of 2 Latin words, eu meaning good and daimon meaning soul or spirit, right? In the Roman culture, it was like when a kid was born, there was this other, right? This other that was always there, that was taking notes, that was the source of their genius, that was always building a relationship with the way that this person was dictating their life. And the most important relationship is the one that you have with this other, right? Call it your higher self, call it your divine potential, call it whatever label you want, right? At the end of the day, the relationship that you have with yourself is the most important relationship. When you do the things that you said you were going to do, when you make commitments and you keep them, when your words and your behaviors match, that is when the relationship is developing on a solid foundation and a solid ground, right? And it is impossible to build a harmonious relationship with anyone else if your internal dialogue is all messed up, right? If you don't have a good relationship with yourself, you can't have a good relationship with anyone else. If you don't love yourself, how are you going to give something that you don't have, right? It's impossible. So that's really what it starts with. And the most important practice for me has really been that of listening to silence, right? Again, you can label it meditation, you can label it mindfulness, you can label it whatever you want. But sitting in my place of silence has been the one thing that has allowed me to differentiate between the signal and the noise, right? The noise is all of this stuff which I picked up since childhood, which is all the opinions, impressions, and all the stuff which is not even mine, right? Which is all from the conditioning, which is all from the programming, from the school system, all of this stuff that I picked up, right? And only when I listen to silence can I begin to differentiate between the whispers of my soul and the noise of society, right? And that is why it's so important to be still, to meditate, whatever it is that you want to call it. Just making time to cut out all external stimulus, right? Put on an eye mask, put on the headphones, and cut out everything that is coming in from the outside so that you can actually begin to differentiate what is coming from the inside, and you can begin to tune into your own intuition, your own higher self, your own knowing of what you are here to do, okay? Now, the second thing that I wish I knew at the age of 21 years old is that the physical world is an illusion, right? Physical reality is not how it seems. And this is the old model of Newtonian physics, which is taught in school, right? Cause and effect, that we are the effect of a cause outside of us, that the universe is a machine and it functions based on predictable patterns and there's nothing that we can do about them, right? This is what made me be a victim for a large part of my life, right? Complaining, making excuses, blaming, having a story for why I am not where I am supposed to be. Oh, I can't make videos because of my skin color. Oh, I can't talk because of my accent. Oh, I can't do this because of that. Oh, I guess that's just the way it is. Oh, my genetics are like this. Oh, my parents were like that. Oh, my genes are like this, right? Being the victim of external circumstances. But once we get to the level of quantum physics, right, the atomic level. Now, I'm not a quantum physicist, I'm not a scientist, okay? I'm just a deeply curious individual that goes deep and explores the areas that tickle my fancy. And based on my understanding, my elementary understanding of quantum physics, right, is that of the double slit experiment, right? That when a photon, which is a particle of matter, is shown through two slits in a wall to the other side, it either behaves like a wave function or it behaves like a particle. And what determines whether it's a wave of endless possibilities or whether it is a particle is whether an observation is being made or not, right? This is known as the collapse of the wave function, which means that observation creates reality, right? And that mentality is understanding that the way you look at things determine how those things look. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change, right? Dr. Wayne Dyer said that, because your perspective is literally your reality. Two people can be looking at the same thing, but from a different angle, and therefore that thing itself will look different, right? Physical reality is an illusion because atoms, which are the particles which make up every piece of matter in this universe, themselves are 99.9999999% empty space, right? And it's crazy because, you know, the electromagnetic spectrum, which captures everything that we see in the universe, right? Everything that we can explore in the known universe is captured in the electromagnetic spectrum, right? Which represents 0.005% of the entire universe, right? I think more than 95% or 97% of the universe is dark matter and dark energy, right? These are the labels that we assign to these things we don't understand, right? And then so everything that we can perceive is 0.005% of everything that is, right? That's the electromagnetic spectrum. Now, off the electromagnetic spectrum, which contains like gamma waves, radio waves, microwaves, all these different waves, right? There's the visible light spectrum, right? Which is actually 0.0035% of the electromagnetic spectrum, right? So looking at like everything that you can explore with your five senses is, but not even like the tip of the iceberg. It's not even the tip of the iceberg. It's like a minuscule amount of everything that is, right? And that is really the ultimate dilemma, because we think that if we can perceive it with our senses, we think that we can see it, touch it, feel it, taste it, hear it, that it's real. But the reality is that the brain itself, its mechanisms of perception are that of deletion, right? There was an estimate that the brain picks up 40 million pieces of data, or 10 million, all right? 10 to 40 million pieces of stimulus like every single second. And of those 10 million to 40 million pieces of stimulus, there are 40 that are perceived by the conscious mind, right? There's like 9.5 million that are like 9.9 million more than that, right? That are perceived by the subconscious mind. So what even is real at the end of the day, right? Whatever you believe to be true, that is what will be true, right? The physical reality is underlined by the metaphysical reality, right? And understanding that, you know, it's the outside is an effect of the inside, right? As I change my inner world, the outside world will begin to change as well. As I begin to change how I think, feel, and do, then literally reality will bend in that structure, right? And if you are disciplined and you value the future over the present, that is when you can have the power to bend the structure of reality in your favor, right? Understanding that this is all an illusion, right? Even in the Hindu philosophy, they talk about how the five senses are a deterrent on the path of self-realization, because we have been conditioned to move towards pain or move towards pleasure and away from pain. But once we can transcend that to the higher self and begin to see that, okay, it's all an illusion. The only reality at the end of the day is infinite awareness, is pure consciousness, is infinite love, is unconditional loving awareness, right? And realizing that unity at the end of the day is the only reality, and duality and trinity and all these things come build on top of that as an illusion, right? So I went off on a tangent over there. I can make a whole probably 1 hour video on that, but just want to say that physical reality is an illusion, right? Nothing is ever how it seems. All right, now the third thing is that of a Rumi quote, right? So Rumi said that he said, you are not a drop in the ocean, you are the ocean in a drop, right? So, you know, like, it's crazy because when we think about this vast expanse of the universe and how we are just not even particles of dust, right? Like, if you were to take the earth in comparison to the current prediction of how big the universe is, then the earth is 1/1 billionth of a pinhead compared to the size of the entire universe, right? So that's crazy. It's like, oh shit, I'm nothing, right? But you are nothing and you are everything, right? Like you're not like, the ripple on the surface of the ocean is not separate from the ocean. You are not separate from the source. You are not separate from God. You are not separate from the Tao. You are not separate from everything that is. You are everything that is, having an individual experience that we call human, that we assign all these different labels to, right? But those labels don't define you. You are the awareness that is experiencing those labels, right? And it just comes down to realizing who you really are at the end of the day, which is pure loving awareness, consciousness that is having this experience. And that same aspect, that same core is behind every human personality. And once we can see that, then we can begin, following the golden rule, right? Treat other people how you treat yourself, right? Do unto others how you do unto yourself. And really, that is the golden rule, because that is when you realize, okay, how I treat another is how I treat another aspect of myself. And I am everything that is in this individualized expression, having this unique experience, right? Of infinity, experiencing infinity. And once we can realize who we really are, then that is when we wake up to our power to create the lives that we are here to create, right? Now, the fourth thing that I wish I knew at 21 years old is that the fear of death is ignorance of life, right? I remember I used to sit on an airplane, and anytime there was turbulence, I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna die, oh no, like get like tripped out, right? When the flight is going through turbulence and stuff. And just every time just being very fearful that, okay, what happens if I die right now? And I never dove deep into that. Like, why was I experiencing that? Because the reality is that I didn't know who I was, right? I didn't know that I didn't identify as the unborn, undying aspect of who I really am, as life itself, right? Fear of death is ignorance of life, because death is not the opposite of life. Death is the opposite of birth in this physical dimension, right? Based on my research and study of a bunch of different near-death experiences, right? You read about them, you can just Google near-death experiences. They are explained as a beautiful, blissful experience whereby the energy, right? The soul is separated from the body and it goes back to the source, right? It's a transition to a different journey, right? It's not the end of life, it's a transition to a different journey. Based on my research and experience, I haven't experienced a near-death myself, I haven't experienced out of body yet, right? But the fact is that a lot of people have, and a lot of people come back to the same conclusion whereby they're like, I was everywhere, I was nowhere, I could experience what everyone else was experiencing, I could see what everyone else was thinking, I could be anywhere, anytime in the past, present, or future, right? That's like a going back to the source where you're beyond space-time, right? And you are at a higher realm of awareness and going back to source. And this is blissful experience that a lot of people end up coming back to in their near-death experiences, right? And this is something which a lot of people are scared of. I think this is the most uncomfortable thing that a lot of people deal with, right? Which is death. I remember whenever I bring it up amongst my family or talk about it, my mom always gets triggered. She's like, why are you always talking about death? Just be grateful for it. I'm like, yo, like there's an apt saying from Troy. If you've seen the movie Troy with Brad Pitt, there's a saying that the gods envied the mortals because they were mortal, right? Because they had death, because the gods are like just experiencing it on forever, but we are experiencing mortality. And really, if we can begin to develop a deep relationship with death that I've done in my own life, like contemplating my own death and contemplating what would truly be important for me in the face of death, then everything unimportant begins to fade away. Of course, there are distractions that come up. That's why it's a practice every single day, reminding myself of my death, of developing that relationship, of going deeper and getting clear on what's truly important, right? Because there's light and there's dark, right? And without dark, there's no light. Without light, there's no dark, right? Because if there was no dark, then light would be the only thing that is. And if light was the only thing that is, you wouldn't know it, right? The fish doesn't know it's in water, right? Because that's the only thing it's experienced. So if we can think of if you can think about death as the shadow, which gives the light of life meaning, then we can actually begin to utilize our time more effectively, right? How much time do we waste at the end of the day? It's like, for me, I've been tracking my time and it's more than I would want, and I know there's a room for improvement. So the more we can develop that relationship with death, the more we can get clear on what is truly important for us in our lives, right? Now, the fifth thing that I wish I knew at 21 years old, and this is what Nikola Tesla said, right? He said that if you seek the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, vibration, and frequency. And quantum physics tells us that everything is energy vibrating at a frequency, right? So this is all about raising my own vibration. Again, it comes down to, starting off with that victim mentality, thinking that I am at the effect of causes outside of me. But once I realize that I am the cause of the effect of my life, it really just comes down to raising my own vibration, right? My combination of how I think and how I feel. If I can use the trigger of thought to make me feel how my future feels, then I'm literally living as a quantum creator of my reality and the driver towards my destiny, right? Rather than a ship without a sail, rather than a leaf in the wind, which I was for a long time, just doing what I was told, right? On the assembly line of life. Okay, do this, do that, go to university, get good grades, get a job. That's the factory, that's the assembly line, which society conditions us to be on. And if we don't stay on it, they're like, you're dumb, you're stupid, right? You got bad grades, you must be very stupid. But once you realize that everything is energy vibrating at a frequency, it all just comes down to elevating the frequency of your vibration to match the reality that you want. And somehow, some way, right? The quantum field works in mysterious ways. The universe works in mysterious ways. But once you raise your vibration, once you raise how you think, feel, do, right? And experience at the end of the day, those emotions, then you literally not only rewire the structure of your brain to reflect this future reality, right? You change your brain with your thoughts alone to reflect this reality. And then, as Dr. Joe Dispenza would say, your brain becomes a map to the future rather than a record of the past, right? Raising your vibration is the only thing that matters, right? And as Dr. David R. Hawkins actually did a whole scale on the frequency of vibrations, right? Right in the lower portion, it's like a bunch of different aspects on it, right? But in the lower portion, it's every decision that's driven through fear, through the lens of thinking you're not loved, through the lens of thinking that there's something to get from outside of you, right? And then right in the middle is courage, right? When you act in the face of fear, when you feel the fear and do it anyway, that's courage, right? And then above courage, everything driven through love, through the capacity to give, through love, through bliss, through joy, through fulfillment, and eventually getting to the point of enlightenment where you are not separate from the universe and the universe is not separate from you and life is acting through you. You are an expression of life, right? I'll link out to another video over here on the 4 levels of conscious evolution if you want to check it out, okay? So those are the 5 things that I wish I knew at 21 years old. Let me know in the comments below what has been the number 1 takeaway for you in this video, okay? And like it if you haven't already, subscribe if you want to. And with that being said, this has been Mo, and I will see you in the next video.